I am Lachelle Atkins. I'm a life coach, and my role is to help others love the life that they're living. A little bit of background is I got into life coaching just from my own life experiences. I'm the mother of 15 children. Yes, that's right, 15. My husband and I have 13 children that we had together. I had 11 of them natural, 2 C-sections, and then I have 2 stepchildren. This has been a challenge for me within my own life because I am the only child. So it was quite a culture shock, so to speak, to come from a family with just one child to having a host of brothers and sisters, and just the cooking for a larger amount of people, the cleaning. I could go on and on about the responsibilities, but it has really imprinted my life in such a way that I've decided to use these experiences to help me give people strategies that can help them overcome obstacles in their life. So, in my history, I've been hospitalized 3 times for stress, 2 of those for actually stress hospitalizations, and 1 time it was postpartum depression. And as a result of this last hospitalization, which was October of 2016, I just came to the realization that my life cannot be perfect. I have had this unrealistic expectation that the things that I'm involved in can be perfect, and that just really is not reality. You can have excellence in terms of the things that you can control. So, for example, if I'm in a relationship, that relationship, I can't guarantee that it's perfect because I'm not in control of the other party. I can only control what I bring to the relationship. And so going around with unrealistic expectations, which are not even possible, was a main component of a lot of the stress that I endured. So as a life coach, I wanted to use my knowledge and wisdom and experiences in order to be transparent for my clients so that they can not be so focused on me and my experience, but be able to see the transparency, learn from the pain that I endured so that it can help them have the confidence and empowerment to make decisions that can help their life run a lot smoother and to be happy. So I wanted to take a few minutes just as a little brief background to let you know a little bit about me. But I wanted to tackle one of the issues that really works with really hindering a lot of what people do, and that's fear. Okay, so our body has its own fear defense, which is the flight or fight principle. You know, if you see something scary, you have an adrenaline rush that gives you the energy to either fight or to run, depending on how your brain assesses the successful rate of you winning and being victorious in that particular circumstance. So we have a bear. You know, we may not be able to fight a bear, but we may be able to run like we've never ran before away from a bear. Okay, so fear is something that we're always going to be challenged with, okay? And I don't want to say challenge, I'm just saying it's a fact of life. You know, your body has defense mechanisms against fear that we don't even have to think about. You know, it's physical, mental, emotionally, all these things happen in a blink of an eye, and we don't really control them. Our body is programmed to be able to protect us in the event we have some fearful thing happen. But we're going to talk about fear because a lot of times this is the thing that paralyzes us and prevents us from growing, from moving ahead in our life and experiencing different opportunities because we have this fear. It could be the thing that's stopping you from speaking before a crowd, stopping you from going for that promotion, afraid to leave your kids at school because you're afraid that something's going to happen to them, or the teacher's not going to give them favor, or they're going to be bullied. Okay, we can go on with all the scenarios of things that we're afraid of. But I want to show you how we can use that fear to fuel us to success. So we know that fear is always going to be a part of our life. One of the things that we want to do is to be able to condition our brain to say, okay, I know you may be afraid, but this is something that's not life or death. This is something that it may be scary, but we can overcome this. This is not something that I have to run away from. So we're going to take the word fear and we're going to break it down. I love to use acronyms because it helps me to be mindful of what that particular subject means to me. So fear, the first letter is F, and that stands for focus. We want to be focused about whatever it is we're striving for. So I'll use myself in a lot of my examples because I know the things that I've experienced better than anybody else. And so I can use them as illustrations. So one of my goals is to be debt-free in 5 years. So when it comes to focus, I have to be focused on the goal and focused on why I set the goal and how I'm going to overcome the goal. All right. So I want to be debt-free in 5 years. Now, I would love it if it was before 5 years, but I'm 46. And the debt that I've accrued didn't just happen in 5 years. It didn't just happen in a month. It didn't happen in 6 months. This has been a way that I have been thinking for whatever reason. Okay. I've made choices that were not the best choices. And so it has got me to the position where I am today, where I have debt. Okay, I have people that I owe, past due bills, okay, medical bills, credit cards, whatever, okay, student loans, all right. So I've accumulated this debt. And so in order for me to be realistic, right, I have to focus on the fact of I'm in debt. How did I get in debt? You know, it first comes with the awareness. I can say, hey, you know what? I might not have made the best choices, but I can't have the same mindset to get out of debt as the same mindset I had to get in it. So one of the things I can illustrate, for example, let's take some credit cards that I've had. Okay, credit card bills could have accumulated because at the time I made the purchase, I felt it was something that I really needed. Okay, so I have to really focus on what really is a need and what really is a want. Okay, so I have to take the time to really think about those things and focus when I make the decision to make a purchase in terms of my goal, which is being debt-free. So F is for focus, knowing why you're doing something, the timeline. It didn't take me 5 years to accumulate the debt. If I'm living paycheck to paycheck with minimum savings now, I'm not going to have all these debts paid off in a year because where's the money coming from? You know, you have to be realistic and give yourself that time to be successful in accumulating the goals. They have to be something that is obtainable, okay? Something that's realistic. And if it doesn't seem realistic or obtainable in terms of how you have envisioned it, then you have to figure out how you can break that down small enough to where you can be clear and focused, okay? The next letter is E, which is to educate. So I did a little bit of talking about how knowing whether something's a need or a want. I have to educate myself. I might have been spending out of the idea that, you know, I deserve this. Okay. More so than recognizing that if I am buying something and the relationship is one-sided, where I'm purchasing some shoes, for example, and it costs me more to purchase those shoes than it does for me to just be able to have the freedom of not having the shoes, you know, or a name brand purse, for example. And I'm not getting on anybody who has name brand things. I think it's great if that's something that, you know, works for you. But in my case, it doesn't make sense for me to get a purse that has somebody else's name on it, and then I barely have enough money in the purse to get gas if I need it, you know, to prevent me from being stranded on the side of the road. So really being able to dive in, educate yourself, and recognizing, you know, what is this really serving? Okay. It doesn't make sense for me to spend $90 on a pair of boots that maybe where I'm living, I won't even be wearing them the majority of the time. Maybe I should spend $40 on some shoes that are going to be used every day, and another $20 on something else that can, you know, definitely benefit my household. You know, stocking up on some toilet paper or toiletries or something that is readily used in my home, more so than buying one pair of shoes that's going to sit in my closet, you know, 8 months out of a year. Okay. So that's what E is, to educate. A is for action. How many times, I can raise my hand on this myself, you go to seminars, you get around people that, you know, you look at them doing amazing things. They've tackled being out of debt. They're making money in their business. They're having these motivational talks, and you're taking all the notes, and then you go home and you're not doing anything. Okay? So A is action. All right? So this is very important, because a lot of times what we do is we look at somebody's highlight reel, what they've accomplished. We don't really even think about how long it took them to get where they are. We don't see any of the behind the scenes. We just see the finished product, and then we have the same expectation for ourselves. So remember, I wasn't thinking like a person who knew how to manage their money, who understood even what they had, you know, was really in tune to what their income was, what their expenses were. So my actions are going to be different than somebody who has always used their skills and wisdom and educated and researched on the topic of money. I'm not even going to be able to compete until I start getting myself in that arena. So back in the day, for me, it was Michael Jordan, who was the awesome basketball player. Everybody loved to see him play. You never knew what he was going to do. He just was spectacular in his moves and shooting three-pointers, layups, all this stuff. But everybody saw the highlight reel. You know, they wanted to be Michael Jordan. They wanted to be where he was with all his fame and all his consistency. But we don't think about all the behind-the-scenes work that took for him to be where he was. And that's the same thing. A lot of times we don't even know what that is. So for me to be out of debt, you know, I look at people that are not in debt, but I wasn't there when they decided not to get their nails done. You know, all their friends were doing it, and they couldn't be a part of that. Or they weren't able to go to McDonald's or get pizza for their family at least 3 or 4 times a week. Or, you know, buying just a modest pair of shoes when they really wanted to get the latest, best thing that was out. Okay? It's those sacrifices that people make behind the scenes that allow them to be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor later on. So it was those small acts that led up to a great reward. So if you feel like you're in a position where you can't act, you can't take any action, you have to think back to making it as small as possible so that it's so easy you don't have to be motivated to do it. So we're back to the debt example. So if I love going to Starbucks, I go to Starbucks 5 days a week. Okay. What's realistic for me is to say, you know what? I'm only going to go to Starbucks 4 days a week. And the 5th day, I'm going to take that money that I normally would spend at Starbucks and I'm going to put it in a savings account. Okay. And so I'm going to start saving, because part of the reason for me being in debt is maybe my circumstances. Okay. So with 11 kids, you know, you have X amount of dollars for your utilities. You got this for groceries, gas, whatever. Everything is micromanaged down to the very last cent. Because a lot of times if you don't have enough, you're definitely trying to figure out what you can do with what you have. A kid comes home, hey, I need new shoes, or my pants got messed up, or they're ripped, I need new pants. So because I don't have savings, because I'm in that debt mentality, I have to take bill money, okay? Utility bill money, money that's set aside for gas, money that's set aside for groceries, or whatever the case is. And I have to subsidize the need for getting the pants or shoes or whatever. And that is going to make me short in another area. Now, how does that affect me? I'm paying late fees, or I'm double billed on a bill, okay? Because I wasn't able to pay that bill, so it's rolls over to the next month. So a realistic goal for me would be to start a savings account. Nothing big, fancy, but just the mindset of saving so that if I have an emergency or something that comes up, I have some funds that I can use that will not interfere with my lifestyle and everyday living. So an actionable step for me is to begin to have a savings account. Another actionable step is if I can find money for Starbucks, even though I'm living paycheck to paycheck, okay, if I can find money to go to Starbucks every day, I can sacrifice 1 day a week of Starbucks and use that money to invest in myself and my family and my livelihood by taking that money and putting it in savings. Now, it's not going to be $1,000 next week, but it's just the mindset of taking the action and doing something consistently, because I haven't been doing it before. So if I begin now, I'm going to begin to take the steps that's going to get me where I'm trying to go. So that's A, action. R is for results. Where do you see yourself going? Taking the time to reflect, to think about, your actions. Okay, if going to Starbucks 5 days a week, and then I take 1 day out of a week, how is that working for me after 4 weeks? Am I being consistent in taking that $5? If I'm not being consistent, what is it that I can do? Okay. Maybe it is I can have the coffee, but I normally have coffee and a piece of bread. So maybe I keep doing the coffee and just take the bread. We have to wean ourselves. It's just like teaching your child how to ride a bike. You don't just put a child on a bike and expect a child to ride. It's a process. They start out with a tricycle. They move up to a bike with training wheels. You take one of the training wheels off, if that's the way you train them. And then you take the other one off. But it's a process for them to get comfortable on the bike, for them to learn the dynamics of the bike, how to move forward, how to stop, whatever the case is. So we have to have that same patience with ourselves. Do what works for you. So if the coffee thing doesn't work, try not getting a side item. Make it small enough to where you're not feeling defeated, but it's still moving you in the right direction. It may be that, hey, only once a month you go out with your friends and hang out. You used to do it every week, but You say, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice this. For this month, instead of just spending it on something I enjoy interacting with my friends, but I'm going to invite them over. We're going to have dinner at home, play some board games, listen to music, do something that doesn't require spending money. Meet at a museum. Look at the artwork. Do something for free. Okay? It's going to cause you to educate yourself and change your routine. You're going to have to educate yourself to figure out what things are free, because you may not have even been conscious of it. We just think that we're not going to have any fun. It's like my kids. If there's no internet and they don't have access to playing video games or watching what they want to watch, it is like we're back in pioneer days. They have no idea of what to do with their time if what they used to spend their time on is not available. So it's up to me. Hey, read a book, play a board game, go outside, run a race, play a game of kickball. There's so many options, but because we get into our routine and get used to how we normally conduct ourselves, if something changes, we immediately don't have any kind of resolve. We don't have any kind of insight into what we can do. We can't even think about what's positive about it. We can only list the negatives. So take some time to reflect, think about your results, and do what is going to get you closer to your goal. So like I said, if the goal that you're having, the steps that you're taking, the actionable steps are too big, make them smaller so that you can accomplish that and gain the momentum in order for you to be successful. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight. We are talking about using our fear to fuel our success. I pray that this is beneficial to you. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, if you want to be able to explore how this can help you personally in your life. If you have a need for a guest speaker in order to present some like topics or material to your church or at your job with your staff, motivational opportunities, please feel free to reach out to me. I can be emailed at protocolgroup.inc@gmail.com, or you can phone me, text me at 706-580-9831. And I really pray that this was beneficial to you, and I look forward to the testimonies. Please feel free to email me. Let me know how this might have helped you. And again, just anything you need, just feel free to email me. I thank you again. This is Lachelle Atkins signing off. And remember to use your fear to fuel your success. Thank you.